Welcome to Operational Harmony, Balancing Business and Mental Well-Being, a podcast with honest discussions about professional life and mental well-being in a natural conversational way. Your host is Nikki, founder of Nikki's Office, where she supports entrepreneurs through operations, systems, and strategy. And now, let's hear from our guest.
Hi, Nikki. I'm Bernard Barchie. My company is, as you can see behind me, Be Big Financial Solutions. But that's not what I've done. Most of my life, I was a former chef. I'm born and raised in the Pittsburgh area, hence the black and yellow colors and all that stuff. But I ended up started doing this because I just started learning some really neat strategies for wealth creation. And I know it's not taught. And that's probably one of the biggest things that was really challenging when I kind of, like, as I mentioned, left the matrix. When you're over there and you're working in corporate America, you're making somebody else rich is what you're doing, but they pay you well. It took me years to eventually get to where I needed to go. That's not exactly the way you want to be living your life. And I lived it for 55 years of mine. So what I'm trying to do is trying to educate people. Don't make the same mistakes that we have made on how things work. I refer to, we work hard for money. And money's the golden goose. Got to protect the golden goose. But you don't. You pay your bills, you put yourself more in debt. Everything you do, buying a house and all that stuff. There's all kind of strategies that you can leverage that you can still do the same thing, but you could also build your wealth at the same time too. And I didn't do that. I just started learning that. So I wanted to start my own financial literacy company, teaching people how to do that. And you see the book behind me. I should have written numerous cookbooks after 33 years of my life. I wrote this after being in the industry just 4.5 years of understanding how wealth can really be created. And they just leverage strategies, all they do. And that's the whole idea, is escape the matrix for wealth creation. Just do what they do. Learn what they do, but it'll never be taught in the matrix. And it's not, and it's intentionally not. Credit is horrible. We're the biggest debt country in the world. And the normal household debt is probably in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what do? We buy a mortgage for 30 years. We drag that out for 30 years. We can afford the payment. Who are we making rich? Not us. We're making the banks rich and all the financial areas in general. There's a wealth transfer going on, and it's humongous right now, but it's not in our favor. It's in all the credit cards and all the other areas, the banks, the mortgage companies, your car. All these people just know how to take advantage of us in the matrix. So the whole goal is, and it won't ever be taught except for Be Big Financial Solutions. So we're building a financial literacy agency to be able to do this. And it's just mind-boggling of how it is. And it's so simple, but it's not even explained for people that are in the industry. And you're talking financial advisors.
For me, okay, I think I've said it before on my podcast, but I was in special ed until 8th grade because of my reading comprehension skills. But by 8th grade, I was college level comprehension. There's weird stuff happening in my life. But one of the things is I was taught how to write a check in 2nd grade. I was taught how to balance a checkbook in 5th grade. I got to, I think it was 9th or 10th grade, and I was taking some easy breezy, no, it was my senior year, taking an easy breezy typing class, right? That had bookkeeping involved in it for some reason. And nobody in that class knew how to write a checkbook. Nobody in that class knew how to balance a checkbook, write a check, clear a checkbook, and none of that. And I'm like, why are they teaching that to the slow kids, but they're not to the normal kids? You would think that they would still be teaching it to them. It just blew my mind that something even that simple wasn't being taught to people.
When you said the normal kids, I don't even know what normal is. Normal is a societal.
For me, it was always the special ed because they're special people, and then the other people were normal, and they got to do
categorize.
that.
That's the whole idea of the matrix that I was telling you about. They literally put a tag on people and they keep us trapped over there. Balancing a checkbook is, you don't even need to worry about that nowadays with the computer systems. And you're right, it's not taught. None of that stuff is. And it's basic learning that you're doing in school. But school is designed to keep us trapped. It really is nothing more than that. And I went to school. I did all that stuff. Go to school, get an education, go get a job. I'm once again born and raised in the Pittsburgh area. You can't be any more blue collar than Pittsburgh. And like my dad was a mill worker. He worked for his years of his life in the steel mill. He ended up passing away of an asbestos cancer, and he built his whole entire life inside of there. He had life insurance. However, his life insurance was only $100,000 death benefit. That is not a lot to be working that many years of your life. And that 100,000 is worth nothing. And like nowadays, that 100,000 is worth nothing. But back in there, a big chunk of money being passed off to the family. We didn't know what to do with it. Everybody wanted a piece of it. Our family started fighting because of it.
That's common. That's super common.
But it's not meant to be. That's the way they design it. And it keeps us uneducated is what it really does. There's a book out there. It's called What Would the Rockefellers Do? And just strategies of leveraging. They leverage life insurance. But Dad never trusted the family. He specifically says what to do with the money. It's got to go into family banks. And we're not talking family banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, or anything. We're talking family banks by leveraging life insurance, creating your own family bank, putting all the money into those because it's protection. And that's the reason why wealth gets created into those areas. So school system's great, but they put tags on us. And I was an athlete. When I went to school to play sports. I had to pick a major. I changed my major 3 times. Eventually, I got an accounting degree. I can't even balance my checkbook, just to tell you straight up. So accounting degree was useless for me. And then I went to 2 years of culinary school and 2 years of pastry school. So I got certifications in both of those areas. All that I did is put myself in debt. Don't know how to get out of it. You postpone it, you defer it, and you just keep doing all that stuff. If you notice the arrow behind me is the way wealth should grow. It should start out a little slow. And then the longer you're using it, it should take off. It shouldn't go like this. And that's what ours does. It keeps us trapped. Now you have really rich people. That doesn't mean they know what to do with it either. You got the ultra wealthy is a different story though. Ultra wealthy leverages strategies. That's why they're ultra wealthy. The rich just have a lot of money, like sports, athletes. I'm listening to a gentleman, he's been out of sports for a while, but he still has millions of dollars. He says, I can't live off of $5 million a year. How could you not live off of $5 million a year? That money should be making money for him, not him depleting. That's why I call killing the golden goose. He just had a lot of golden eggs, but he's not protecting the golden goose. It's not making more eggs for him. So that money's not making money. Reason why financial advisors have to go get their SEC licenses and Series 65 and all that stuff, because you put your money, it's correlated to the market. It's at risk. You can't build wealth on an up and down roller coaster ride. I had a retirement account. And this is like my dad. My dad had a retirement account. There was nothing in it. He worked his whole entire life with the steel mills. That's not what we need to do. We need to protect and bring it all back to us. So school system's never going to get us that area. It's specifically, you could even go to college and study finances, and they don't teach you this. And that's horrible. Nowadays, what do they even teach you in college? One of the courses I had to take, Nikki, interpreting the Bible, because I went to a Catholic university.
Oh, that makes sense.
I had to take interpreting the Bible. That was a mandatory course that I paid for. I flunked it 3 times. And it's
How
interpreting.
do you flunk that?
I don't know. They didn't even grade me on my English. I didn't interpret it the way the pastor, the priest wanted it, because we had literally a priest was the professor. And I just like, I interpreted it. This is my interpretation of the Bible. How could I fail? And it's okay. I went to college. I played sports. I picked a major. It's just, that's not the way we want to do it. These kids nowadays, you don't need 4 years of college. You need one.
There's also a whole lot of weirdness happening at colleges. You don't need that.
And with myself just learning this thing, you know that within a year, I had a really good understanding of how it worked. And I didn't pay for any of the education. It's called YouTube University. Just look up what you want to learn. But don't look at the first one and realize, okay, that's it. No, it isn't. Go research, but figure it out. And that's what I did. And so I ended up writing a book, because what we got to do is got to think like the people in the real world. I don't tell them how to do it.
Yeah.
What I tell them is you need to think like this. Forget everything you've ever been taught. And we need to do that with just life in general. Stop listening to people. The people that are telling us the way we need to be aren't there in the first place. So why are we listening to them? Mom and dad and all the family and all that stuff. So yeah, it's kind of tough.
So with the way you teach people to, or are going to, haven't started yet, right?
No, what we're doing is we're putting the agencies out. What we're going to do is, wealth is created in the real world. Not having a job, there's having a job is in the matrix. What you do with the golden goose in the matrix, you have to put it into the real world for protection. So you can go in the matrix, do what you need to get from it, but put your finances and the strategies into the real world access. Starting a business is a wealth building strategy. Every single ultra wealthy person doesn't have one business. They have multiple businesses. And it could even be a side hustle. But there's always there's money coming in from all different areas. And they're all separated out too for protection. I refer to it as the movie Black Panther. So you got the dome. You want to put everything under the dome. The government is not Thanos. They can't break into this thing. So it's a layer of protection. And that's what you want to do, is protect everything. So they're ultra wealthy because it's not about how much money they make, it's about how much money they keep. So what we're doing is we're retraining. One of the biggest, Nikki, one of the biggest vehicles that we leverage is life insurance. Okay, so have to get an insurance license to do it. But we're not selling life insurance. I don't do any of those things. I got a health license and a life license, but we don't do term policies and IULs and GULs. We leverage the strategy of using a vehicle, which is life insurance. Because why? What's the number one asset on a bank's balance sheet is life insurance, and a bank doesn't even have a life. So if a bank is real world, we need to do what they do. So if they're using life insurance and they don't have a life, why are we buying it to die? It's a whole different strategy. So what we're doing is we're retraining the agents on how to educate clients on how to use a vehicle, which happens to be life insurance. Now, the biggest thing I always get, Nikki, is how much money do I have to put into this? How much money do you want to protect? And I'm telling you, and when I say it correctly and they understand it, within seconds, all of it. Absolutely. Government doesn't allow you. It's literally a tax shelter. That's why banks use it. But banks can only do 25% of their net worth. But a design, and a lot of agents don't even know how to do this. The insurance companies are capable, but they don't teach the agents because it doesn't make the insurance companies money. And remember, insurance company is nothing more than a business too. And it's a tier one asset. It's the safest place to put your money. So they got to make a lot of money. So they don't want to be using this strategy, but they let the ultra wealthy use it. Why? Because they know how to. It's their own personal banking. It's called privatized banking. You literally become your own bank by leveraging life insurance. Now, it comes with a death benefit. So you have something to leave. Now, when I was talking to you about a retirement account, I had a 401k. Okay, I put $150,000 when I finally left after years of being in the industry, putting it in there. I had maybe 140, but I think I had 175,000 into it. But the only thing is, what is that going to do for me if it came time for retirement? And it's correlated to the market. If the market goes down, I'm losing. But at a certain age, you don't have time to get that money back again. And that is never taught. So I started looking where the ultra wealthy use for retirement. They don't use the same things we do. They don't have 401k. They leverage life insurance. Why? Because it's a private contract. That's the educational part behind it. So we're building an agency to retrain the agents and agency builders how to build their own financial literacy. And we want to have one regional office in all 50 states within the next 2 years. And those regional offices are going to build regional offices also within their states because everybody needs to learn this strategy. It's not hard. Clients don't pay anything. It's all it is education. So we're building that out. And that's what I want to do is I want to change the way people think. Matrix is designed to keep us trapped. I had to retrain my thought process. And that's what the book said. You got to be thinking into another area. Get a job, you can have a job, and I use a dirty word, and that's the first time I said it in a long time. That's the matrix. But you could also start building things on the side hustles. I tell people, join affiliate programs. If you like something, see if they got an affiliate program and refer it to somebody and get paid. There's nothing wrong with that. It's side money. Anything that you have to do. It just makes sense. So even though you have a business now, real estate is the main venture for most people. But people don't understand how to do it. When you buy a home, you think you're making yourself rich by buying a home? Now, is it a liability or is it as an asset? What do you think?
Liability.
Absolutely, because you can't.
One good storm comes along. I guess now that I'm in Arkansas, I'm in Tornado Alley. There was a tornado went through, took out my insurance office building. Not insurance office building. That was a stupid thing to say. My therapist's office. You had my brain saying insurance. But it took out, it literally opened up the front of the building. It took out, they're still doing stuff in that area to fix buildings. They had to completely redo the church's chicken or whatever it is. It might have been Popeyes. But they had to redo the whole building because it wasn't structurally sound after the tornado hit. Something like that hits and your insurance doesn't cover all of the repairs, you're on the hook for all that. That's a liability.
It's a liability from day one when you buy the home because you don't own it. You got a mortgage on it. Here, and this is where I say the banks are criminals. But they know how to move money. They're criminals. And it's in their favor. So banks are not allowed to own real estate. But they can acquire it. And how do they acquire it? They give you a mortgage for it. But you have to qualify for the mortgage. You got to prove to them that you can pay it back. And if they do, they'll give you the mortgage. But the day you purchase that home, you can't add it on your balance sheet because you don't have a balance sheet. You have a bank statement. But they can put it on their balance sheet because they're a business. And it's an accounts receivable. And now they have a real estate asset. So they now own your home. You don't own it.
Yeah.
That's a sad thing. But if you buy it as a business,
or
you
if
could do the exact same
buy
thing.
it all out with cash.
Yeah, but you still don't own the home because if you don't pay the property taxes,
It's a grift.
You don't own the land. And that's what you have to do. You got to buy land. And this is the mindset.
Oh, they own the land here. Here
Except
anyway.
sometimes when you own the home, you don't own the land. The
Yeah.
land is owned by somebody else, and all they did is build homes on it. That's what you
Taxes on
want
it.
to. Because when, like I said, when they build those housing complexes, people think they're buying a home. They're purchasing the building. but they don't own the building yet. They're mortgaging it. It's like leasing the building until it's paid off, but they still don't own that property. They just own the building. And then the land is still owned by somebody else. And that's what I said. So if you do own the land, awesome. Because McDonald's, if you go back and you want to study things, McDonald's is not about hamburgers. McDonald's is about real estate. McDonald's purchases the land, and that's where they have to build the franchise. Somebody can't go in there and say, hey, I want to build a McDonald's on this block. No, you want to build it on that block. Why? Because they own the land. Now, the person who buys the franchise has to build out they have to pay for the building. McDonald's is making money off of them because they're renting the land from them. And then you have to put up all the money to build the whole darn thing too in the first place. So it's all about
And then
rules.
you got to pay them for using their logo. You have to pay them for using their food.
Everything.
You have to pay
Everything.
them for
You can't
using
change
their
anything.
toilet paper.
It's not your business. It's a franchise. You have a business, but it's under their umbrella, which is okay.
But you already know you'll probably do well unless you end up building in gang territory or something.
Well,
Even
all
then.
the money that you pay into it, it takes you 7 years to break even. What's going to happen? But 7 years to break even because there's not a lot of profit on it. In the food industry, because remember, I'm a former chef,
Yeah,
15% was profit after everything else is paid out. That's not a lot of profit. Now, if you're making a lot of money, it's a lot of profit because Walmart's profit is 3%. But 3% on
3%
millions of dollars
on
is pretty good.
thousands of products is pretty daggum good.
No, it is. And then the more volume you could do.
And you had to bring up
percentage can get
that
smaller.
Walmart.
What's that?
So then you had to bring up Walmart.
Not intentionally, just because. And then Amazon also, because Amazon. How would you like to never pay a tax again, Nikki? This is what we're teaching at Be Big Financial Solutions also. Why? Because you have to start a business. But you have to set up your business correctly. You can't be a sole proprietor. You got to understand that the real world leverages things differently. Of course, the book's on this side. Notice my hands going over there. So the real world leverages it differently. So they set up their business correctly. The Matrix doesn't. That should be taught in school, how to set up a corporation to not pay taxes. Now, Amazon, I started studying them because they've never paid a tax since day one. They're making so much money, but they're constantly reinvesting into their business. I'm sure in neighborhoods, plants going up, Amazon warehouses being built. Well, they buy the land. They're McDonald's, but they're building it and they're putting their building on it and it says Amazon, but they have the real estate division that owns the land. And then they got the construction division, which is Amazon, which owns the building. And all that money is staying in the family. So you have to start a business and you have to do it correctly. So if you never want to pay a tax again, you got to start a business. Doesn't matter what it is, but you got to incorporate it correctly.
So you were saying that you have to go in there and research to figure out all of this information. And so Wikipedia is a horrible place to try. Don't quote Wikipedia if you're trying to actually do research. But you can use it to find some good resources. You have to check the resources and read the resources yourself. But you can find some good sources that way by going into the article, finding the articles they use to quote things, and going and looking at that yourself. Because Wikipedia is somebody's interpretation of what happened.
Yeah, it's like the encyclopedia online.
So find the source, go to the bottom of the thing and look at all those articles that are linked. Go to those articles and actually read them and understand what they're saying, good or bad, about what you're thinking about before you think that you have everything figured out. Because if you're only going to one place, so if you're only going to YouTube University and one person's channel to figure out all your information, you're going to end up with some bad information. You're on YouTube University, you should have more than one source for the information you're getting. And I would double check it off of YouTube.
Yeah, remember what I was saying, in the real world, I say success leaves clues. You have to follow the ones that are doing it. So the book explains the strategies that are used in the real world. Once you see the strategy, then do some research on the strategy. But don't listen to it doesn't work, because it does work. Our mind in everything that was designed, you're always going to have somebody that's going to say, you can't
Well,
do that.
yeah, that's why I said good or bad, whatever, but make a judgment call. If you read something that's going through and saying, this is what happens, this, and it's a good source, and then you read somebody's Google review of the same material and it says, you don't know what you're talking about, maybe don't use that person as the reason why you don't do something.
Yes.
Because there's always that person who thinks that they got cold French fries on purpose.
Yep. And that's the whole idea. So success leaves clues, follow the ones that are doing it. I always tell people you got to forget everything you've ever been taught, because that's going to hold you back. Got to start studying the ultra wealthy if you want to change the way finances work for you. Best way to make money is stop losing it. And that's Warren Buffett. Okay. Charlie Munger, all that stuff. And they say that his approach is the arrow behind me. There is no doubt. He does not put money in the stock market. What he does is he buys businesses. He invests in the business. And then since he's the owner of the business, he gets shares in the company. But he buys businesses that are going to make money. They're not the up and down that you're going to see, like Bitcoin and different things like that. They can go up, can come down, can go up. Gold can go up and can come down. However, gold's God's money, meaning it's from the earth. Okay, so the Almighty created that. So it's not bad to have some gold. There's a lot of gold in this planet, but it's controlled. And that's a sad thing too. There's so much water on this planet, and it's controlled. And that's sad too, because it's all about money. And who's doing it? The ultra wealthy. And they know how not to lose money. I'm not saying they're a good idea. I'm just saying is we need to start leveraging some of the strategies that they use for where they put money, because they don't lose it. And we can do the same thing. Like I said, I studied the banks. I didn't study the banks because I like the banks. I studied the banks because I wanted to know what they do. And if I can leverage some of their strategies, I want to learn it. I started looking at executives of insurance companies. What do they use for retirement? And that's what I found out. They use life insurance. But they don't pay into it forever, Nikki. They buy ones that they only have to pay into it for 5 years and they're done. Because they don't like, once again, the money has to make money. They don't want to keep forking it out. And when you use an insurance policy, oh my God, the growth over time is outrageous. It might not be a high number, but the longer you use the machine, the bigger and the stronger it gets. That's why it's a whole mindset change. So anybody that's really into the matrix has to literally forget everything they've been taught, because that's the design to keep you trapped. And you listen to anything on the stop watching the news. The news isn't going to help you get to where you need to go. And I had to do this to myself.
The news is too depressing to watch. I don't watch that stuff.
Yeah,
Somebody's
first thing
always
you get
killing
is,
somebody
yeah,
and
absolutely.
war and death and war and death, and somebody's doing things they shouldn't be doing. So I don't
Yeah,
watch
but
the news.
that keeps us trapped, if you understand. And that's literally designed to keep us trapped. It's to keep fear. That's why I stopped doing that, because I started studying the ultra wealthy and their habits. They don't watch the news. They pick news that they want to read, not the stuff that's forced to you on TV.
Have you seen those videos on YouTube where they splice 60 different news channels into one video and they're all saying the same thing? It's
No, I
invasion of
wouldn't
the
want to either.
body snatchers.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to either. Yeah,
It's
like I said,
creepy.
I watch what I want to watch and all that stuff like that too. So
I
it's
don't watch TV. I game and I read. I don't have anything to do with TV. I don't have enough time. I have stuff to
I've
do.
never read so much because before I don't like reading. This is I needed pop-up books, something really quick because I was plugged into the matrix. Television commercials, every 10 minutes you got a commercial. When you go to school, think about it. You can't even finish a class because the bell rings and then you got to go do something else. So it's training to keep us short attention span. And that's why now on Facebook, if they don't pique your interest in the first 5 to 10 seconds, people are scrolling. That's why they scroll. And these people, they have to do something very explosive to get to pique your interest. That's horrible. And that's not the way it should be. There's no creative thinking that's going on anymore. It's forced onto us and all that stuff like that. So yeah, I stay away from news. I disconnected my cable. I don't need it. I used to sports all the time. I like football just for entertainment. But you got football on three on Sunday. You have 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 5 o'clock.
I did not need that much football.
Thank you. And what did you do the whole entire day? You wasted your whole entire day. I used to do that. I was in the Matrix. I had a job. You go to there, you
I've
do your
never been a
job, and then
fan
you
of
think
watching
you think
football.
that's a good time when you're just watching it. I literally changed my habits just because I started studying ultra wealthy on their habits. And I don't want to do them all, but I picked what I like the best that I can leverage myself. And I just think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And really on yourself too. It's all about you, not anything else. Do not let anybody tell you whether you can or you can't. Do you ever see that all the white sheep, they're coming down and they're all falling off a cliff, and then you got one little black sheep in the middle that's facing the opposite direction and trying to go back up? You want to be the black sheep. Don't follow suit. Just don't do what everybody else is doing. Don't listen to anybody. They tell you when you're starting a business, somebody's going to say yes to you. You might have hundreds of thousands of no's, but don't stop. Somebody's going to say yes. And I'm not going to say you have to go through that many, but the whole idea is if you got a great idea, go with it. Don't let somebody else shoot it down. And that's why this educational company, we're breaking out from the standard of what the industry is about. And we're just leveraging those strategies. Yes.
That also reminds me that of the the guy who does the Ring doorbell. He had it as a different name before, and he went on that show where you ask the 4 people to be a backer.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of them wanted to be a backer for 70% of his business, and he said absolutely not. And then rebranded into Ring Doorbell, and now it's the doorbell everybody has.
Everybody has.
But yeah, everybody has.
Yeah, I have it. Yes. And it's before I had ADT. And you put cameras up over your house and they were all hardwired. Guy's a genius. It's, if you think about it, you can make it happen. You might not be the one able to make it now. I need a lot more work with this because you got to really understand that somebody else out there, you can leverage them to do it. All you need is the idea. Now you just got to go around, you got to start finding people, because it's the same thing while we're building this agency up. We got to build the core team. We got to get it to the next level, and then we got to train the agents on how to do the exact same thing. But all it's a cookie cutter business. It's like a franchise. All that they're doing is they're going to leverage a platform that we're teaching people, and they're going to do the exact same thing. And we're just going to pass it down from agency. But
you're white labeling, right?
Kind of, sort of. Yeah, it's because remember, for wealth creation, they have to have their own business. We're not paying 1099. That's temporary until we get them incorporated. Because they have to, there's got to be a little bit of money to get the incorporation set up and everything like that. But they got to build some income, and then we're going to get them incorporated because they have to have the C Corp, LLC, what minimum LLC. Now we got to do the trust, because the trust is the main thing. Got to put it all under a trust, because a trust, nobody owns the trust. It's a trust. But then you put a holding company underneath it. And then from under there, you start building out your corporations under the holding company. But all your money should be locked into life insurance. And Life insurance is owned by the trust, which is yours, but you're the owner of the trust. It's just they can't ever come after you because you don't exist. That's why the ultra rich are ultra rich. You can't touch anything. You might be able to get a small portion if you're going to sue a business. You might be able to get that one section of the business, but that's it. You can't get all their other assets because they're all separate and they're all protected. And I learned that from being here in Las Vegas, MGM Grand. MGM Grand owns everything, but they own nothing. So if you try to sue MGM, MGM doesn't own anything. Underneath them are all these separate corporations, which is underneath the umbrella of MGM. So if you want to sue food and beverage, it's a whole separate division. You can't sue MGM. MGM will never lose it. You might be able to get some money off of that one little division. And it makes a lot of sense. And that's where I call Las Vegas was built by the mafia. And everybody knows that. Okay, so I'm not talking anything that's not true. The legal mafia nowadays are in corporations. They're LLCs, C corps. They've structured it to where they got full control. Nevada's a good place to incorporate your business too, just because of the legal ramifications on protecting businesses. And that's where I said you learn these things when you start coming into play. Why would somebody want to know that? Well, it's because it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And it's about your net worth. It's not about cash. Cash is protected. It's your net worth that dictates, because you could borrow money based on your net worth. And that's what we're trying to explain to people, because don't use your personal credit. Your personal credit is nothing. It's not going to get you where you need to go. Let the business be able to borrow money. Amazon is in debt, just so you know, but their net worth is off the charts. And they could borrow money based off their net worth because they got money coming in, even though they're still in the red, but they're always getting bigger. They're just AI, these different things. What are they going to invest in next? They're constantly expanding. They're running the world with all that stuff. They're shutting down malls because of them.
Malls were going away before Amazon came along.
Amazon crushed them though.
But yeah.
Amazon just sped up the process.
Oh yeah, but they were already dying. People didn't want to walk around a 17 billion store.
Why?
I know my butt didn't.
Thank you, because we're lazy.
It's not because I'm lazy. I have arthritis in my back, hips, and knees.
Yeah,
so
but
you're
a rare breed.
Yes,
Most people would rather remember this is the matrix keeping us trapped. They want speed. They want easy returns. They want all that stuff. They never have to leave the comfort of their home to do it. Most people don't even know how to talk to people anymore. It's because they're all plugged into their homes. Here in Las Vegas, back in Pennsylvania, there were no walls around the house. Here, you got your house, and then you got walls separating from your neighbors. We don't even know our neighbors. Because when you come into your own little section, you're just
to be fair, my friend and her husband know plenty of the neighbors around us. I, however, not wanting to know any of the neighbors, do not know any of the neighbors. I have not talked to anybody on purpose. I did answer the door to one of them one time, but they asked me a question and I was just like, I have no idea. That's not a me question.
Do you have to build around your house?
No.
See, but you can still see your neighbors. Back in Pennsylvania, the front patio was big. Most people didn't have a backyard patio. You had a little concrete slab and you step on a little patio there. But everybody was in the front saying hi to the neighbors. Here, it's the opposite. Your back patio is big, but it's surrounded by a wall. And then your front is nothing. You just step out the door and there's nothing really there because you don't really know your neighbors.
Yeah, we have a gazebo and stuff in the backyard, but there's like stairs to get out of the house and nothing in the front yard.
But you can still see them. Like I said, this is old school. It's probably changed in all kind of different areas too. It's still a little bit bigger on the East Coast and everything, but people sit in the front yard.
Yeah.
They have chairs in the front.
I remember all that stuff. All the people in the yard, you're out there playing, and all they do is laugh at you when you fall off your bike.
That's okay. That's okay. Get back up again. Yeah,
I biffed it. I went down the road had a really big hill, and I biffed it. I went, my shoelace got caught into the gear, into the chain. And so I went butt over tea kettle over the handlebars. The bike came down on top of me, and I'm just laying there. I thought I died for a second. Maybe I wished I had. And I could hear some people laughing at me. I got my shoelace out of the thing real quick and just walked back up the hill. I'm gone.
People are tough. First thing that should be coming out of the lips, are you okay?
No, they just laughed at me. I could have understood if they were like, dude, you okay? While laughing, but they never even asked. There was somebody who was passing in a car who stopped the car, got out, and was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was just like, yeah, fine. I got out of there.
Still, one of the TV shows that are still on is America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yes.
Why do you want to watch somebody, because all these videos,
the train wreck thing, you can't look away.
There are people crashing and burning and all that stuff like that, and everybody's laughing about it. And then they're giving you money for the best one. So these people are now designing it to become that way. And you notice that keeps our attention. That's a specific design. Why? Because that's less that people are caring and giving. When you think about we use the term devil and all that stuff. Devil's just the bad side. And then you got the Almighty is the good side. Good is graceful and helping your neighbors and everything like that. And the other side is just laughing and making fun of people. And we're watching it on TV. Still, one of the biggest shows is Cops. But people complain about police brutality. But it's the number one show, Cops, because they want to see somebody get beat up. But then they complain about it.
Hey, watching it. I don't see people on Cops getting beat up all that often, because them cops know them cameras are there, and they're there for the TV show. But what I see is people just trying to do their job. And whether that means somebody who has broken the law gets arrested or not, some people are just like, oh, they're innocent. They're 17. They don't know any better. Let them go. Dude, they just murked somebody. What do you mean they didn't know any better? Everybody knows not to do that type of thing. You know that by 5. You're not allowed to kill people. It's just not allowed. Yeah, they just ruined their life. And dude, I wish they hadn't, but now they have to suffer the consequences. There are consequences for actions. There are consequences for other people's actions, which people fail to see all the time. Because if somebody gets acted upon without their permission, in any of the different ways that can happen, that creates a trauma that will follow that person for the rest of their life.
Sure.
No matter how, in most cases, no matter how much therapy or anything else, they're always going to have a reaction to certain sounds or certain body movements. I still have problems. If somebody is too close to me and I see their hand go up, I still flinch away. And it's been years and years since anybody has tried to hit me. But it's a natural kind of a thing to be like, wait a minute. Don't hit me. I didn't do it. So, but there are consequences for actions. All the time, people are like, oh, but that person didn't deserve it. They probably did if they're getting arrested. Yes, there is a thing as innocent until proven guilty, and we need to do that a little bit more, because we all know that there are females out there who lie. But that doesn't mean that if somebody's trying to run from a cop or trying to maneuver so that they can't get that cuff on them, it doesn't mean that they can't put them to the ground to get that cuff on them. Like, they have to arrest them at that point. They have to go to jail. There is certain steps that have to be followed. If they're innocent, it will be proven at some point, hopefully, and they'll be let go. But that doesn't mean they can just say, well, I'm innocent, so I shouldn't be arrested right now and get away with trying to run.
There's
That's
a
not how the
lack of
system.
respect nowadays.
Yeah.
But you're talking lack of respect even to before we looked up to the elders. Elders nowadays aren't anything. If you think about over in the eastern part of the world, over in Asia, if you have the grandpappy or a grandma telling a story, you have everybody sitting around listening. You don't do that now. Nobody wants to listen to their grandparents or
No, they're
anybody.
sitting there with the phone.
Yeah, you just tell story. Yeah, absolutely. But once again, that's a design to keep us trapped, and it's working. That's why I said the devil's taken over. And that.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts for your half?
No, other than we all need to realize Matrix is a design. If you've ever seen the movie, it's a good movie. But now look at it differently, because I look at it now and I understand what they're talking about. Now, there's a lot of people in the Matrix that you can't, because they could find people when they start questioning things. But other than that, they can't find them. All these other people are plugged into the Matrix. They're nothing more than the batteries. And that's all we are. We're the batteries for the economy. We're the batteries for the government. And that's a sad thing. We're the batteries for the business owners. What we need to do is we got to realize we got to start questioning things so we can move over to the Matrix. Now, I do want to do one last thought for people. If you have life insurance as a vehicle for wealth creation, it's not a vehicle to die and give to somebody else. Shareholding companies. Banks do not use shareholding companies. Why? Because they don't reap the rewards. So if anybody has life insurance in a shareholding company, it doesn't benefit you as a client. It benefits the shareholders. If you don't own shares in that company, you're not reaping the rewards. Stop making the same mistake. Okay. That's why I leverage the strategies of what they do over there. So that's my food for thought.
Okay. So we're going to switch to the mental health topic. We're going to talk about what mental health actually means in daily life. I have a little blurb and then we'll start talking. I have some bullet points to bring up extra points if we need them, as we need them. Okay. So mental health isn't just about diagnosis, therapy, or crisis moments. It's about how you move through an ordinary day. It shows up in how you react when plans change, how you talk to yourself when you're tired, how much space you give your body and brain to recover. Good mental health doesn't mean you're calm all the time. It means you notice what's happening and respond with some intention instead of running on fumes. So for me, that looks like not putting myself in large groups every single day because the noise and amount of people would spaz me out a lot. It also means that I'm intentional about the people I connect with in those larger groups. Say, when I go to church, there are a couple people that I know I can go talk to and say hi, and they're not going to touch me because they know I don't like it. Or if I give them a side hug, which I sometimes do with the people I trust, then they're going to be ecstatic that I gave them a hug. And they're not going to be like, oh, you finally gave me one of those. But so today I had a conversation with the pharmacy. They're driving me nuts. But I was like, look, I'm not trying to be angry. I'm not trying to be a Karen when I say that certain things have to happen a certain way. It's because you have rules and I need you to follow them. Because for me, I know the rules. I can function better. I was told as long as it's a 10-day window, they can, get all my prescriptions together so that they can all go out at the same time. I called in, or actually, they called me just before Christmas to do my prescriptions, but she only wanted to do 3 of them, not all 14 of them, because they're not ready until the 27th. That's within 10 days. You can do all of them. And I ended up getting hung up on. So the lady I talked to today, I was like, look, I'm not trying to be mean. I just need to not have 4 phone calls in a month for my prescriptions. And I need to know that if you guys say something, you're actually telling me the truth so that I'm not being lied to and then I get upset about something that was said. I know myself. I don't like being lied to. It's one of the fastest ways to set off my screw you button. But knowing my limits, I try to make people aware. Look, if you just tell me what's happening, 100%, this will go 100% different, right? If I don't know what's happening and you're not doing what you said, what I've been told is the rule, now we have a problem. So I go into situations going, this is going to be a little bit difficult, but I can do this. I just have to set my mind up for whatever, right? You set your expectations and you try to be flexible. People with mental health usually are not as flexible as people would like, though. Because if you tell me something's going to happen and then it doesn't, you've now just become a liar and I've lost respect for you and I'm angry because I was expecting things to go a different way. Even as much as sometimes that's unrealistic because you said we were going to start eating at 5 and it's 5:15 before we start. There's still that a little bit of, not as much, but a little bit of the, oh, they don't actually keep their word. We did eat, but it was late. I'm very literal in my thinking. I am very blunt with my speaking. Again, not in a, hey, you're fat kind of way, but in a, okay, we already talked about this, so I shouldn't have to say it again type deal. And if I talk to somebody multiple times a day, I really don't want to have to say, hi, how are you? Are you doing okay? Great. Okay, can we get on with the conversation, please? That's my blunt. And the people who know me appreciate me. I told one of the ladies at church that I was going to have a gift for her this Sunday when I go back because it wasn't in yet to give it to her. I was like, I just got a little something for the few people I can stand at church. And she went, you know I love you, right? So there's just, most people have different ways of dealing with things. And people with mental health need to be triple sure that they're reacting appropriately for the situation. And it's not going from, oh, this is a nice fire in the stove at home type deal to, bonfire in the middle of the road and everything's going up in flames because that's what we're doing tonight for the simplest things. You have any thoughts?
No, but I know when you were talking about, I use a bullseye as an example. That you got the little thing in the middle, and if you're going to hit it, this also has to do with business in general. And when you're doing, you have to really be laser focused to hit it, because if you're just shooting from the hips or shooting, it's all over the place. But it's also your center of influence. So the bullseye is really small. The outer rings is where you just got to start. Your center of influence is only a small amount of people. You can't have more than 5 to 15. If you sit there and say, yeah, I get along with everybody, you can't. You have a certain amount of people that understand you, that you want to be with, and they want to be with you. And they're the ones that are helping you and you're helping them.
Yes.
And that's the ones. And so that bullseye is really small. And then everybody else starts moving to the outer ring. Sometimes your family is not even on the bullseye.
Only one of my sisters is in the bullseye.
So yeah, there's a small center of influence and everything like that. And I totally agree with what you're talking about there.
Daily mental health is about maintenance, not about fixing something wrong. So if you have mental health problems, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It's just an extra thing you have to work on because of something that was done to you. Most mental health is from trauma. Most. The other ones are from imbalances in stuff. And usually that takes triggering as well. So there's usually an event that happens, or many events, or one very crappy long run of craptastic parents, and then big T traumas that happen. Realizing that the things that were done to you are not your fault is very hard. So I hope that people have worked on that and can believe that, maybe even a little bit more than me some days. But also, they're not everybody else's burden to bear. You have to work on yourself. I currently have a whole bunch of different people here because of a special event happening, right? And there are no less than 15 people eating at each meal. That's a lot of people to have around me at one time, especially since some of them are kids and are very loud, like microphone loud. I don't understand how such little beings sometimes can have the biggest mouths around, but there you go. I don't have a problem with none of them. Just wish some of them would stop squealing, that squeal scream some kids do, especially of the female variety. I'm done with that noise. But so I am hanging out in my room. I have gone out there, I have talked to people, but after a little bit, I come back in my room because I'm managing myself. I know that if I'm around a lot of people squealing and screaming and they're having fun, so I'm not trying to be a party pooper, right? But I can't have that noise because my ears ache so bad after just one or two of those squeals, and then I'm ready to break every window in the house to get away, right? So I'm managing myself by taking myself out of that situation. My room is the oasis in the storm this week because nobody's allowed in my room. The adults can and have come knock on my door and come in and talk to me. I've met with my sister last night, and like 3 of the other people in the house came in and said hi to my sister and thought she was really cool. But the dogs that are out there are not allowed in my room. The kids that are out there are not allowed in my room for a very important reason. My room is not childproof and it is not dog-proof. I have things in here that if the dog got interested in them, it might not end well. And I don't want that for anybody, right? But it's also my space. This is where I get to be comfortable. This is where it's up to me who gets to come in, who gets to say, have room in my space. And so no kids or dogs. And everybody's been perfectly fine with that. And they completely understand because of the fact that we all understand my hearing is Clark Kent. I don't understand how he could work anywhere with the amount of volume he had on his ears. No, thank you. My volume's set up at +10, and I want to deck people on the regular for screaming or being way too nasally loud or whatever. I like the bass voice better because it just sounds better to my ears. The high-pitched female voice, I'm just like, okay, you gotta shut up. I'm gonna put a sock in it. I have never put a sock in anybody's mouth. I have been tempted. But, and you can be tempted sometimes to say or do something. Just make sure you don't actually do it so that you don't get yourself in trouble. Walk away. Them dogs start barking into my room.
That's got to be tough sometimes when you're on that borderline. And that's where reactions that just happen. It's not intentional. It's just a reaction that just happened because it pushed over the barrier. Yeah.
Yeah. There'll be times, look, I don't cry. I'm on mood stabilizers and they pretty much make sure that I cannot cry. right? But every once in a while, something will happen, something will trigger something in my brain, and I'm sobbing, and I have no idea why. I know it's nothing good. The whole feelings that are there are not good, but it's not something I do regularly. So if I randomly busted into tears around my friends, she would just be like, "What's happening?" But she would help me. She'd help me calm down. She'd help me start breathing again because it's all in the breathing, and I usually forget to do that when I get that upset. But have you are allowed to have a support group around you, and that whether that means a group of complete strangers that are there to support you, like AA or NA, or I don't know, pick another one. I don't know all the acronyms. There are plenty of different places for you to be able to find community, find strength with others. I am more the loner type. I don't want to be around that many people all the time. I don't want to. I have my friend. I'm good. Mostly because of the stuff I've gone through. Do not make the mistake of thinking that if you are okay with your mental health being where it is, that you can stop taking your meds. That's a no-no. You stay on your meds because they're the reason why you're in an okay place, and we don't want to stop them. You don't drop therapy because, oh, I'm not getting anything out of it. Maybe then you need a new therapist, but you don't drop therapy altogether. You have to be taking your meds, going to therapy, doing the minimum. That's the minimum for somebody with mental health, so that your day-to-day life can be calmer, less reactive. If you are living with somebody who is constantly trying to get a reaction out of you, whether it's I wouldn't say whether it's good or bad. It's usually bad when they're trying to pull a reaction out of you. They're trying to make you look like the crazy one. They're trying to do that kind of thing. You got to get yourself out of this situation. You have to. I am telling you, my life turned around when I got away from the final person like that in my life. But do not stop taking your meds, and do not stop therapy. If you need a new therapist, it's pretty easy. Just go to the front desk probably and say, "Hey, I don't think it's working with my therapist anymore. I kind of need a new one." Me, I love my therapist. She's great. But I know that there are bad therapists out there. I've had them too. You don't get to go through 15 years of therapy and not have some bad ones, right? Yeah.